All right, good morning, Chandler with you for your morning prep. Sit back, guys, relax, grab a coffee. We got Fed Day today, so we got a little bit to talk about. Not too much here, but as always, let's dig in, guys, and have some fun. Looks like we got Cappies, we got Sam, Andrew, we got Seth in the chat, we got T. Good morning, everybody. But yeah, guys, let's dive right in here. So as I mentioned, the biggest thing today by far is just the Federal Reserve set for 30 minutes right after the bell. We take a look, guys, at the calendar and just scroll all the way down to the bottom. We have Chairman Powell speaking at 10 a.m. Eastern, and this is one of the bigger events for the Fed, which is the Jackson Hole Economic Policy event. This is going to be today. This is going to be what the whole market is waiting for, and therefore that's what we should be waiting for. It is a little bit tricky. The first 30 minutes into the bell, I wouldn't do anything. I would really wait and see, and then we'll see what Powell says, and then really this is kind of setting up the rest of the day. We got to get through this morning. Other than that, guys, let's hop right in here and take a look at the overall market. So last week, we got that beautiful drop followed by an even better pop, just continuing the usual trend here for the market of getting new all-time highs. If we take a look, guys, we have slowly migrated, a little bit lower this week. We've just been going sideways ever since that big breakout to kind of start the week. Biggest levels I was watching coming into this week was this this prior all-time high, the zone with these little key levels here. And in my opinion, unless the market breaks below that, I'm not really worried about shorting the market. But you guys can see, yesterday we had that news overseas. We had a little bit of, uncertainty in the air, and we finally had a little bit of a drop to end the day. Where'd we stop at? Right at that key zone, and we're pretty much just consolidating back near these all-time highs. So the biggest thing I really want to watch today, guys, is the following. As I've said over and over, the Fed is going to dictate what happens today, but we have a really nice 4-hour squeeze to kind of use as our compass and gauge of what direction that we should be on. So for today, guys, again, patience should be your best friend. Don't be in a rush to trade this morning. Don't be in a rush to place on lottos. You really want to see, what does the Fed say? What is the reaction? And is it a continuation? You don't want to just see a huge algorithm candle and then you buy it and get smacked in the face. We don't want to end our weeks like that. So just be a bit patient, guys. Let the market settle. And the best thing about squeezes is if they're real and once they settle, the direction should continue. So here's how I'm seeing it, guys. If we hold this 44.63, I'm going to remain a little bullish, right? Look to play the bounce off of it, see if we get back in the middle, and then eventually fire those squeezes. We do have a bit of a tough upside journey with, just this big old chop fest, but not really interested in shorting until we're breaking below this 44.63. If we take a look at ATR for the market, about, call it 40 points here. To the upside, 40 points is pretty much getting back, guys, towards all-time high and a little bit more. Obviously, with Powell, things can be above average. This just gives us a nice little indicator. And then to the downside here, if we do break down this key level and we do fire the squeeze, we got about another 40-point ATR to the downside, which is getting me to my favorite levels. We have point of control down below here for the overall market at 44.37. And we also have the daily mean, which pretty much is rising, guys, to the same exact level, that 44.37. So long story short, this is a big magnet. This is our liquidity pocket. This is pretty much where I'm very confident if the market goes lower, this is where it's going to head. So all this matters, guys, is the Fed. If we hold here and Fed goes great, we can rip to all-time high. If we hold here and Fed goes bad, we could dump right through it and be right at these key levels very quickly, maybe even an hour into open. We'll have to wait and see. But that's what I'll be watching it today, guys. Again, keep an eye on the squeeze. If we just chop in the middle, there's really nothing to do. We've chopped all week. We don't want to get caught up in that. But if the squeeze fires to the upside, we got a nice move on our hands. Same thing to the downside here for a nice drop to point of control and a nice drop to the reversion to the mean. Which at this point, guys, no matter what Powell says, unless we start to breach below the mean, it's just going to be a healthy pullback. And then we see where we go from there. If we take a look at all the indexes, guys, they're pretty much the same scenario right now. If we hop in and look at the 4-hour here on NQ, this is what I'll be watching today. So we started to trend down a little bit here on NQ the past 2 days, and we're rejecting that trend line here this morning. Let me just extend the zone. So just like ES, guys, be patient, see what the Fed says, let the market actually pick a direction before you start to allocate a risk. But I really like this trend line in play, where if we do start to break through it and then back to this all-time high zone, we could start to accelerate and then fire that 4-hour squeeze. Vice versa, if we do continue to reject, Powell says something bad, and we start to head to the downside, if we take out yesterday's low, then I like a drop, guys, towards that prior all-time high on the market. If I just zoom out here, this prior all-time high that we had to get towards, so that 15,172, and I really like that zone with point of control, another good liquidity level down below. So if we take a look here, guys, the moving average, the 21 EMA, is pretty much also that point of control level, just like ES. It really doesn't get more straightforward than this. So let it squeeze, guys. Let Powell talk. If it's great, we can break out and explode. If it's bad, we can break down and head back to reversion to the mean, back to point of control. Very healthy pullbacks to potentially reset the board for next week. Let's find out. Last but definitely not least is YM. And I really want to keep a close eye on YM, guys. Again, it all depends what Powell says. But right now, it is giving us a little sense of the weakest index, where with the drop and with the pop, it never made a new all-time high. It got close, but didn't even retest it. And then the first name to pull back to this white dash line, which is that reversion to the 21-day EMA, kind of what we're looking for ES and NQ to do. So really watch this one, guys, as your poster child, where it's already done the move we're looking for. Now, what that means is it's the first that they're going to pick up and most likely keep the others afloat, or it's going to lead us to the downside first. Get back below that mean, start to fire this 4-hour squeeze, and then drag the other indexes. You guys can see right now, YM is the weakest, right? Only up 0.16%. Tech trying to lead the way. This can always, change, but as of right now, it is giving us a good compass. If we break below this 35,120 level, we're starting to breach below the daily mean, and that's starting to get us into bearish territory. With the 4-hour squeeze, we could easily see momentum and a nice drop back down towards these levels. Same thing, guys, if we do hold here and we do bounce, maybe it just goes back to point of control and chops all day. Maybe it gets to it and then through it and rips. We'll have to wait and see what's said by Mr. Jerome. Last thing I want to cover here, guys, is Vixx. So if you guys have been following my Vixx levels here for the last few weeks, anytime that we near this 16-ish range, that's when the market starts to go the other direction. We near it here, Vixx starts to pop, market starts to dump, market hits the 50 MA, market bottoms, Vixx comes back down to 16. Comes back down to 16, market starts to head a little bit lower. So really pay attention to this one, guys. We're dealing with those things overseas, always a little uncertainty between that and what Powell's going to say. Really watch Vixx today. If it's above 18 and continues to rally, the market's probably going lower. And it's probably going to get that reversion to the mean if Vixx holds above 18. And especially if it tests 20 and breaks through it. We're going to have a heck of a drop on our hands. Vice versa, guys. If Vixx goes back below 18 and starts to head back towards those 16 levels, well, that's when the market's going to be bouncing and probably heading towards all-time high. And from there, we'll just have to see how strong is it, do the squeezes release, etc., etc. But some really basic Vixx levels here to keep you in the right direction. With that being said, guys, I have a very thin focus list today. My best advice on days where there's a Federal Reserve event, just called a market moving event potentially, there's no need to watch 100 names. Most names are going to do the same exact thing. They're going to go up with the market hard, or they're going to go down with the market hard. So honestly, my biggest focus today is trading SPX if it makes sense. As we mentioned with these levels, really kind of preferring downside when it comes to a trade, because this upside, unless they say something really good, is a bit tough for an upside trade. So honestly, I'd probably just let it chop and migrate higher. But if it does get bloody and we do go lower, I really like that short down towards that point of control level we've discussed. And if we just take a look at SPX right now, just to size up some contracts. So we're looking for anything near 44.40, 44.30. So yeah, these are perfect. These strikes are in really nice price ranges, if you know what I'm talking about. And I like the 44.30s and I like the 44.40s. Those both get you to a realistic target. It fits the ATR. It's a liquidity magnet. Those can go from, 2 to 10, nicely in the money. So that's what I'll be watching, guys, at the downside here. Again, this is always subjective to change depending how far we drop into open. But just for right now, these are really good strikes to watch. 44.40s, 44.30s. If the market crumbles, those will get you paid. And obviously, if it doesn't crumble, they're going to go to zero. So treat everything today like a lottery ticket because it is, it is exactly that. It's Friday and it's the Fed. Call it Lotto squared. Let's dive in, guys, to my focus list. First name is going to be Google. This isn't really my top focus. It is a bit of a side focus just because it's up so much. Google's been a complete beast here. They went sideways for a little bit. Tech took its little dip last week. Google hit the daily mean and then absolutely exploded. Look at a daily chart here. They are just rocking and rolling, firing a daily squeeze, and obviously getting a little bit tired. However, guys, this is the strongest tech stock in the entire market. It doesn't want to go lower. It barely wanted to go lower yesterday and already getting some pre-market prints here back at all-time high. It's crazy. It seems like as soon as tech just trickles higher, Google goes higher. Right? Yesterday kept just cracking a new all-time high and finally had to give out a little bit with Mama Market. If we look right now at the bids, we're sitting at about 28, call it 37. So 28.37. Yeah, we're gonna gap up a little bit as of now, right back under these key levels. So personally, guys, this is a name that's going to be on a side focus for me, but since it's Friday, I think it'd still pay you. If tech goes well and if tech starts to rip, I think Google might have one more good day in it. It's kind of wanted to go higher here while tech's been kind of topping out. So if tech does bounce back hard, Google could pop today nicely. I would just keep it quick, guys. I would be mindful of your risk because it is up a lot and it is extended. So it could be a name where they take profit on. But as of right now, she's flexing. She's showing relative strength. I'm open-minded for a little bit more today. So if you take a look at my watch list, let me just pull that up. Here we go. So for Google, going to give myself a handful of strikes to watch just in case we go lower, then decide to pop. Always got to have a few on the list. I personally like, guys, the 2850s, all today's expire, 2860s, and even the 2870s in case this thing just decides to, start here and then rip. Those 2870s will be nice. But right now, if we do go a little bit lower into the Fed and decide to turn around, I like the 2850s the most. Right? Always want to play the closest strike if it makes sense and if the price point makes sense. These are now all pretty cheap, all nearing pretty good levels. I don't mind it. Just be patient on Google, guys. Next setup I like is Roku. So Roku is kind of the opposite of Google, where Google's extremely strong and won't pull back, and Roku is just called extremely weak and trying to base. So if we take a look at Roku, they have quite a bit to deal with here. First thing is the 200-day simple. We've just been rejecting it, and rejecting it. Definitely not looking super strong. However, we've really been focusing on this 352 level all week, where if Roku got through it, I'd be open-minded to trading it. We, hit it Thursday, hit it Friday, gapped up on Monday and held it nicely. Held it on Tuesday, held it on Wednesday, held it on Thursday. And again, we're holding it here this morning. So this 352 is a hell of a support line, and it's continued to work. Roku overall needs some time, guys, but I've gotten long off 352 a few times this week. And as you've seen, it's been a nice trade. We need to be open-minded for it failing at these levels, but playing it back and forth, this ping pong action, there's plenty of opportunity. So I really want to keep an eye on Roku again today. I know it might seem like I'm, abusing the same trade, but it's one of those things where honestly, I'm going to abuse it until it decides to have an inside day because it keeps hitting these inflection points, just going zone to zone. So today, guys, if we can play it off of 352, that'll be phenomenal. Want to play it right back up to 360, right back up to this blue line, which is that 200-day simple. And then right above, guys, we got some big levels with daily clouds and 4-hour clouds. 366 is not going to be easy, but that's fine. If we can get off 352, we look to lock it up here and even potentially switch short. It's giving you that opportunity all week. So to start here, guys, on Roku, going to be watching both sides. Just like SPX, I'll be watching the downside, but Roku's another name where I am interested in shorting it as well as playing it long. If it holds 352 and starts near 352, I'm going to start by looking to go long. Obviously, if the Powell or Fed says something bad and it starts to go below 352, going to look to short it. But if we do hold here, we do see buyers continue to step in, we'd like to get long as close as possible to that 352. Just like here, and just like yesterday. closer we can get, the better. You get that tight risk reward where it's not going to hurt you, but if it does hold, you're going to get a really nice trade if it starts to pop. And who knows, maybe it turns into a unicorn, breaks out, and runs to 380 today, and you got a good entry at 352. Vice versa, guys, if we do start a little bit in the middle here today, gonna be patient. My trading philosophy is you always want to trade off of key levels. If Roku's just sitting in the middle here, there's really nothing to do until it nears a key level. Then you play it. Then you play it. So if we're in the middle here, guys, today, just be mindful where I'm going to look for the following. If we creep lower and hold, I'm going to buy the dip. If we creep higher and start to fail, I'm going to short the crap out of Roku. Same thing, guys, if we do just start to, migrate a little below here and then slip, I'm also going to look to short it. But ideally, you want to short after we pop, and you want to go long when we're at the lows. So I'll be watching Roku for the upside. Really like the 355 calls and also like the 360 calls. If we're lower, those 355s are nice. And if we kind of come off 352, either strike will be decent. And then if we get to that 360, this 363 range and start to fail, that's when I like the 345 puts, and I also like the 350s. And honestly, guys, if we do pop up here and then start to get a short, you can add another Roku strike. The higher we go, you want to add something that's more in the money. So if we do hit that 360, probably want to add the 355 puts as something to watch. Just because the nature of Friday, if we do pop to 363, those 355s will get a lot cheaper. You don't necessarily want to play the 345s. The 345s will be if it just sits here and then breaks down. But if we get the pop to then short, you want to adjust your strike. So I think that 355 is probably your best bet. It's going to get you back down to ranges that we've been at all week. So a lot of examples here, guys, a lot of strikes to work with on Roku, 355s and 360s to the upside, and then we got a few here on the downside. I hope that made sense. And then one more setup here, and that's Moneyman Moderna. So if we take a look at Moderna, guys, just a monster company this year. Obviously with everything going on with COVID, they've benefited. Their company's been exploding. Recently, they've had a really good pop and a really good drop, and now they're taking time to base. So if we take a look, they're basing right where any good bullish stock should base, right at the daily 21 EMA, this white, beautiful dashed line. We're just holding it and coiling. So really want to pay close attention to this one, guys. Whether it's, this week or next week, it's starting to sit here and it's starting to give us some really nice squeezes. Right now, we have a low compression black dot in the 4-hour, which is something I'll be watching. But more importantly, guys, I really like the 2-hour squeeze for today. If you take a look, it's just been basing, and even slowly starting to ramp up a little bit, looking like it wants to fire. You can even see the Bollinger Band starting to open the gate, inviting Moderna to push to 420. So we'll see today, guys. There is a little bit of resistance, on the way here. It's not necessarily just 406. We got to deal with these levels from yesterday and the day prior. And let me actually draw one of those. All right, watch that 406, 408 range, and if it breaks and fires a squeeze, looking for a push-up, guys, towards these week's highs, which is that 415, and call it that 420 range. Moderna has an ATR of about, call it 30 points. So from close, we're not asking it to do anything abnormal. We're asking it to move about half an ATR, give us something nice, give us a good pop on Friday, especially with all these squeezes. We got the hourly starting to release here, right? Compression, low compression starting to release. We got that 2-hour. We're starting to get that momentum building to the upside. See if that fires today. And this is one, guys, that might do whatever it wants, regardless of what Powell has to say. It will be an impact, if they're afraid of the virus and they don't think it's going anywhere. Moderna's going to make more money, and this probably should be higher. I don't really see a reason for it to go lower, but vax names can honestly be very volatile, so be prepared. If it breaks this trend line, guys, has a good chance of going back towards 390. So as of right now, you can size up some puts. I'm leaning a little bullish on this one, but it always helps to have a few contracts in play where if it does fail here and it does roll over and break down, it could fire that squeeze back down to 390-ish. So today I'm actually going to keep an eye, guys, on the 390s and the 395 puts. All right, really nice price ranges here. And then back to my watch list for the upside. Really like, guys, the 410s, which is kind of the first strike I like. And then the 415s is more of a further lotto in case we don't really get to play it at these lows. Right? If it opens at the highs and breaks, the 415s would be the most logical strike. If you can get it before the squeeze breaks and it starts to look good, maybe it retests that trend line and then goes. I really like the 410s. Kind of gets you right up to this key level. Right now, they're pretty decent price. Maybe you can even get the 400s. We'll see. Those are probably a little too expensive. Maybe even the 405s. But I like the strikes I personally have up. And then again, guys, to the downside, we could see 30 points as well, which another 15, half an ATR gets you there. 15 gets you there. Really like both sides of this trade. Just give it time, see what it does. And I like that 2-hour squeeze. So thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. Again, it is all about the Fed today. So do yourself a favor. Don't force things at open. Come in open-minded. Be patient. Let the man speak. Let the algos react. And then we can look to take some action. So hope that helps, guys. Again, just a quick little prep in a nutshell. We get Mama Market sitting in a 4-hour squeeze. If it breaks down here, looking for a drop to point of control in the daily mean. If it continues to hold, we'll see how high it can go. It needs to get through all-time high to be a real move. Watch that 4-hour. For NQ, same thing. Can they get back through this little downside trend line that we've been forming? Or are they going to roll over, break that 15,255, and head back to point of control and prior all-time high? We'll see. For YM, guys, do they start to breach the mean, or do they hold at the mean, work back to point of control, and then maybe even up towards all-time high? Anything's possible today. But watch those 4-hour squeezes. For Google, don't force it, but if it breaks all-time high with strength, it's got a nice little intraday pop possible. Roku, if we can get off 352, I love it long. If we can short it off this 363, I love it short. If it just sits here and breaks down 352, I like a short to 342. A lot of good levels in play here for Roku. And as we just covered, we got Money Man Moderna. Hopefully, guys, you didn't forget the analysis because we just did it. But we got a little wedge. We got a 2-hour squeeze. Ooh, and I actually didn't see this wedge before. It's really nice. Break down. We got a short. Break out. We got a long. Simple but powerful. Thanks again, guys. Go kick ass. Don't be afraid of Powell, but just be smart. Approach it properly, and let's end the week strong. Thanks again, guys. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And if you do want to follow up with myself more, you can join the newsletter in the bio. But thanks, team. Go crush it, kick ass, and have